Good morning, it's me, Ms. Wiebe, and I'm in my garden as I like to do. I have a couple of things set out to show you this morning, and I hope you enjoy them. I found a bunch of these little creatures, and I thought we could maybe play some games. One of the things I like to do with animals like this is sort them, and I can put them into groups by what are things that they have in common, what are the things that they have that are similar or alike. So for example, I could say, what are animals here? Which are the animals that could live on a farm? Do you see any animals that could live on a farm? I see a few. Actually, I see a whole bunch. What about these here? 1, 2, 3 horses. They could definitely live on a farm. There are 3 different kinds of horses too. So we have, this big guy is a Clydesdale, and this medium-sized one is called an Andalusian. It comes from a place called Spain. And this is an Icelandic pony. Okay, so those are 3 animals that could live on a farm. What else could live on a farm? How about dogs? Could dogs live on a farm? I think so. Here we go. There's a bigger dog and then a little puppy. They could definitely both live on a farm. What about these? What about those? Could those live on a farm? Definitely. Chicks can definitely live on a farm. That's the best place for them, isn't it? We could have these on a farm. This is a calf, baby cow, right? And then we could also have this is a lamb. It's a baby sheep. They could live on a farm. Rabbits could live on a farm. Here we go. What about cats? Could cats live on a farm? Absolutely. They keep the mice away from the grain, don't they? And the animals' food. Here's a raccoon. We don't raise raccoons on a farm for anything, but they can go in our orchard and steal our fruit. What about ants? Can ants live on a farm? Ladybugs, if we're lucky, ladybugs and ants can live on a farm. They have a job. And we definitely need bees on a farm. They pollinate the flowers and help them turn into fruit, right? I think you could probably even find cardinals and snakes and frogs and butterflies on a farm, but look at that, so many things. It's kind of fun to do that, isn't it? Okay, here are our horses. Put all of these back. Let's think of another category that we can put these animals into. How about this one? How about animals that live in water? Animals that can live in water. Do you see any animals that can live in water? I see a giant one. I spy this guy. That's an orca. They live in the ocean off the coast of California, and they're huge. I see one more animal that can live in water, and I'll give you a clue. It can also live on land too. It's in a category called amphibian, but this category is animals that can live in water. And a frog, ribbit, can live on land and in water. So there we go. So that's a small category, isn't it, out of these animals? Let's do one more. Let's do animals that can fly. All right, take a look. What kind of animals here can fly? Well, what about this? It's even got the word fly in its name, right? Butterfly. That I think is a blue morpho butterfly. And then of course, birds. Most birds can fly now. Chicks are birds and they can fly a little bit. They can flutter up to get to a high place so that another animal like a predator doesn't get them. So when they're a little bit older, when they're little, their wings are too tiny. But they can fly a little bit. Something like a cardinal, this beautiful bright red bird, can fly. Absolutely. What else can fly? Did you know that ladybugs can fly? They can. This is part of their exoskeleton. That's the the outside kind of hard part of their body, and it opens up, and then underneath are these tiny little wings, and they can buzz around your garden, and they can be very helpful in your garden. Speaking of helpful in the garden, can bees fly? Absolutely. Sometimes they buzz around us when we're trying to eat our lunch, and we don't like that. All right, well, I see one more thing that can fly. This guy. Giant red wings, right? Can a dragon fly? This isn't like the insect dragonfly. This is a dragon, and it's got these giant red wings, so that can definitely fly with those big red wings. Now, I have another question for you here. Out of all of these animals, do you see any that are fiction? Fiction means not real. Fiction means that it comes from our imagination. What animal here comes from fiction? Well, it's not a cardinal or any of these bugs. It's not our chicks. It's the dragon. A dragon comes from our imagination. They've never lived on our earth. They're just in our imaginations. But all the other animals here are fact. They come from the world of fact. They are part of our real world. And just like these animals, we have books with information in them, and sometimes there's stories from our imagination, and sometimes the books are full of facts, and we call those nonfiction. So today I'd like to show you some books that are nonfiction. I have a whole bunch of books to look at with you. We're not going to read a book today, but we're going to look at a whole bunch of books and maybe look inside some of the books to discover what nonfiction can really be. All right, the first thing I want to show you is these two books. Okay, now, this one's called Fishes, and this one's called This Is Not My Hat. Can you tell which one is fiction and which one's nonfiction? Did you say this one's fiction? Yeah. Let's think about that. It's probably from somebody's imagination because fish don't wear hats and they don't talk and say, "That's not my hat." And the picture is not very realistic either. It looks kind of silly to me. This is our fiction book. This is nonfiction. This book here has a realistic picture. It also says a true book at the top. And so that's one clue that this is nonfiction. You might be thinking already, well, nonfiction books have realistic pictures. And you know what? I have lots of that kind. This one's called Thunderstorms. This one's called Let's Classify Organisms. Look at these realistic pictures. Here's one called Frogs. Got really simple titles, not lots of words, and usually the picture and the words match. It's really telling you something. Now, they can be really big. They can be about things in history. This one's about Egypt. This one's about dolphins. They all have these realistic pictures, don't they? And this one's just called Everything Dolphins. So what do you think's in this book? All right, you're right that fiction often has drawn pictures and nonfiction often has realistic photographs. But let's look at some other books. What about this one? It says, I'm a Little Tiger. Now, in this book, we have a sentence, the title's a sentence, I am a little tiger. Now, tigers can't talk, but this is a very realistic drawing of a baby tiger. Very realistic drawing. And the whole book actually has realistic pictures in it. Very realistic and lots of information too. So that's the other thing that a nonfiction book gives you. It gives you information. It doesn't necessarily have a beginning, middle, end like you would get in a story. It has facts, it has information, things that you might want to know. Here's another one like that, I'm a Little Giraffe. And again, it has very, very realistic pictures and information about, in this case, a little giraffe and what a little giraffe's life is like. But did you know that nonfiction can also have drawn pictures that aren't very realistic? Let's look at this one. That's definitely a drawing or maybe a painting, I'm not sure. It's illustrated by Franny Lassac. And this is not a photograph, definitely not a photograph. The name of the book is Clouds. You can see the OU says ow, right? Clouds. And the picture definitely matches the title because you do see lots of clouds. Let's open up this book and see if it has photographs inside. You know what? I'm not seeing photographs. It's more of these paintings. But you know what I'm also noticing is that the pictures have very important details that they're showing us. And what do you notice in this picture? It's definitely the clouds, isn't it? What about on this picture? Look at that. That's not realistic. But at the same time, because you wouldn't have all of these different kind of clouds in one sky, but it gives us different kinds of clouds. So this one's cirrostratus. This one's cirrus. This one's cirrocumulus. This one's cumulonimbus. And all of these different kinds of clouds in the sky here have what we call a label. Do you see that? Those little words next to the picture. So here's another book that has non-photograph pictures. Okay, it says A Nest Full of Eggs. So what do you think this book is about? Here inside, it shows inside of an egg. Now this is not a photograph. It wouldn't be very easy to take a photograph of the inside of an egg. But here, an artist, in this case, the illustrator is Lizzie Rockwell, she drew what it would look like inside a robin's egg. And look at this. Do you see those? There's words with lines connecting to something. Do you see that? That's called labels, just like we saw in that cloud book. Okay, so here's different kinds of feathers with labels on them. So that's this book here, not realistic, but at the same time giving lots of information. Here's another book. Now this one doesn't have realistic pictures at all. This one's called Gravity is a Mystery. And this is a really cool book, maybe to read when you're in first grade. It's a kind of a big idea, but it's talking about something that we can't even see. It's talking about a fact called gravity. And because we can't show it, the illustrator, Edward Miller, has drawn pictures that look a little bit silly. See here, you can see a guy jumping through the planet Earth. That can't really happen, but it's giving us information. Now, I just wanted to also point out that sometimes when we're reading for fact, we might even be reading in a magazine. And here we go. It's got lots of facts in this magazine. These are magazines for kids that are a little bit older. Of course, we don't have pictures of dinosaurs because dinosaurs lived way before we had cameras. So in that case, we have to always use our visualization and use the facts that we know, and we have to draw what it would have looked like. All right, boys and girls, this week we're going to be looking at fiction compared to nonfiction. Actually, we're going to mostly be looking at nonfiction books and what are things in nonfiction books that make them nonfiction. I hope you have a great week and tune in tomorrow because we're going to be looking at some specific books.